Hi everyone, this is Postgres FM episode number 62, if I'm not mistaken, and this is Nikolay and Michael. Hi Michael.
Hi Nikolay.
Your time to choose the topic. Tell us what is it?
Yeah, so I chose to go along with the monthly blogging event. So Ryan Booz invited people to blog on the topic of what their favorite Postgres 16 feature is. So this is the upcoming release. We had a release candidate one last week or so.
Last week
release
candidate, next week release.
Normally it means release is coming unless anybody finds a bug or two. So thank you to everyone involved in that, and figured it would be a good time to talk favorite features.
Right. By the way, I just realized I'm interrupting you and making the process of subtitle transcript creation worse. But this is a good moment to remind our audience that first of all we have our podcast published in everywhere basically. One listener, the guy, very good PostgreSDB I know many years, wrote me that it's a good idea to publish us on Spotify and not only on YouTube. I told Postgres.fm, that's it. You can see subscribe or something, the button which will show you many options. So if you follow us on one place, you can follow us on multiple places. It's even better, right? Because maybe Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcast, everything, Google Play, anything. It's convenient. And yesterday I saw even on Amazon something like podcast in India. I sent you this link. It's also published, interesting, all recent episodes. And of course, it's worth not only subscribing but leaving a review. You know what to leave there. You should have something in mind already by now, by episode number 62. So, and yes, we have good transcripts. On Postgres FM, we have outdated version. I hope we will update them soon. But on YouTube, we started publishing improved version of subscripts. It's combined effort from OpenAI APIs, Whisper and GPT-4, and manual corrections. We have glossary, we have improved process, and I also plan to apply this process for some talks. So it's interesting content pipeline, which probably will produce content for people who want to read it maybe later or something. Okay, enough. Postgres 16, where to start?
What's your favorite feature, and how did you go about?
My favorite feature, yes, I thought about it. I have two answers here. My most favorite feature is that all features are open. In age we live in, when companies are choosing not open path. Elastic and Mongo first, then now we have HashiCorp. It's not related to databases, but it's adjacent technology. Many people provision infrastructure using Terraform. And this morning I've learned that ClickHouse decided not to open source new implementation of some, I forget already, but some feature, let me check, I have it open, share merge tree table engine, new implementation will be not open in ClickHouse. ClickHouse is open source and we appreciated it. It gained popularity being very good engine for analytical workloads. It was open from very beginning. It was amazing. But they also started to choose the dark side.
So you mean almost like a meta feature that you're grateful
exactly.
And
this
pleased.
Is what I wanted to say meta feature. Yes, exactly. You caught it. So all Postgres features are open still. Let's appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I want to add to that. I love not just that the code is open, but also the discussion around the feature is open on the mailing list and on the commit fest. There's great
Here we
commit
come
messages.
to some dangerous area, not discussing versions and technology, because I have my personal opinion and I see that many things are not open, unlike many companies which are more open than Postgres project. But it's a different discussion. Let's discuss it in another episode.
Cool. So other than the meta feature that the code is all open and the features are all open source, what's your favorite actual feature?
Oh, okay. I have two more answers. One
Cool.
of them purely technical. One of them is that the feature we discussed. It was my idea. I like poor man's solutions. Like when you don't trust fully or you're missing something in monitoring, you start using some system performance tools, like starting from top, PS, IOStat, IOTop, anything, and if you can connect, of course. I'm not talking about RDS here. So similarly, if you need to update a billion rows, and you understand that it will take ages to explain how to do it properly to people, but it's very urgent. For example, next week your integer for primary key will be out of capacity. So you just use PSQL scripting and /watch. So I always select ability to specify number of cycles I need. And I gave this idea. I said this to Andrei, and we coded it on Postgres TV. It was live. Andrei sent it to hackers, and in Postgres 16 we will have this feature. Obviously, I like it. It's it's a tiny feature, but not only it was committed to Postgres 16. In Postgres 17, I already see continuation of this idea, and people add more tweaks, more options to /watch command in PSQL. It means that it resonated. I'm happy. But
so just to go into the specifics of what. So in the past, you could watch, and it would basically run the same query to check on the progress, for example, of something, and you could do it. Yeah, go on.
Let me, as usual, I explain some things I learned over years, which are tricky and not obvious. First of all, /watch is a replacement for semicolon. You don't need semicolon. By the way, even Andrei learned this from me when we discussed this extension. I bet 95% don't realize you don't need semicolon. You say select blah, blah, or update blah blah blah, and then /watch, and it already works as semicolon, and you don't need extra execution. So immediately you start executing in loop. By default, it will be 2 seconds of wait time between loops. The code was, by the way, not too many details. Let's admit, it's just delay time, not loop time, but delay time 2 seconds, because also query takes some time usually, right? It's not 0. And the only option /watch had in the past, it's this wait time. You can adjust it, and in extreme cases, I remember putting something like .1, .1 means 0.1
tenth of a second, or
100 milliseconds. So it's very quickly doing something. You can see if connection is good, you can, for example, monitor PGSet activity. You see data changing there almost live. Right? It's kind of cool if you understand if the overhead of what you are doing is not high. But now you can also specify a number of loops you want. If you want to run something 10 times, do it. Or for example, with simple math, you can understand, I want this to run approximately 1 hour. The query to PGS activity, it's fast. Okay, we have 3,600 every second, for example, and this will continue 1 hour. Poor man inside me is happy. I mean, poor man approaches, I like them a lot because they are very trustworthy. PSQL is the most trustworthy client we have. Right?
And it's a simple solution, right?
Simple.
In the past, so just to clarify, in the past, it would just run infinitely until you stopped it.
Right. Yes, and I used select CTE, and then if nothing to update, for example, I just used division by number of rows, which is 0, and it stopped by error. And this is how I stopped. And in Postgres 17, highlighting this new feature, which is additional option other people developed. Sorry, I don't remember names. but it's not Andrei already. I'm not involved at all. Additional feature will say how many rows to require to continue, if like something like minimal rows and so on. And you can say if it's 0 rows, stop. Now officially, without division by 0, which
Cool.
is very good. Mm-hmm.
Just
Final-
probably a stupid question. Oh, I was just going to say, what do you know why? If what you really wanted was, let's say, please do this for an hour, and instead of having to do the maths, why not have a time frame in there?
Well, now the like Pandora box is open, right? We can propose new options, and my honest belief, like PSQL itself needs some extensibility improved. For example, I don't like, like idea of plugins in VI, in Tmax, in Sublime, everywhere. Yesterday I tried to install something for Sublime for my daughter. It was insane. I gave up. So I usually use many plugins until I don't, because if you switch computer, switch hosts, and you are in a new environment and it's default VI, no Control A is not working anymore. You need to go back to Control B as control for control sequence, right? So you use Control B. So I stopped using plugins for Tmax and VI mostly, but still, plugins for PSQL is a good idea, in my opinion. But it's not it doesn't exist yet, right? But extensibility like this for /watch, it's good. I think small, very small, but useful. So let me actually technical feature I like the most is different one. This feature is I'm related to it, so that's why I want to talk about it. But among all features I like the most, Pages.io, the new system.
Yeah.
No, not it. Bytes column inside it. This is what I like the most. Bytes, operation bytes, and if you check it, it will be always 8,192, so 8K, 8 kibibytes.
8192, yeah.
It will be filled with the same number always.
Okay.
It looks kind of silly a little bit, right? But why I like it? Because it changes mindset from buffers to bytes, finally.
Yeah, okay.
And I checked multiple articles talking about Pages.io, and they mentioned, there is this strange column, and they immediately started to say, if you have this number of buffer operations for writes or reads, this translates to this number of gigabytes or something, megabytes and so on. And this is I like a lot because I know how important it is to translate this for backend engineers who usually it's like additional step in mind needed to understand what buffers mean, and it's hard.
It's not simple arithmetic, and the numbers get big quickly.
Right.
I'm guessing you just multiply them in queries where you're looking into this new view. You multiply them.
How many times my BC in my terminal, BC-L, like calculator, how many times it received comments like some number multiplied by 8 and divided by 1024 to understand number of megabytes. It's like I already type it very quickly. Times 8 / 1024 just to translate to megabytes and explain to other engineers this is a lot, or it's tiny, it's nothing. So I think this strange column, let me highlight it, it's a very good thing to have. Although it's not, ideally I would prefer seeing derivatives, like derived columns from original block numbers, derived additional computed. It's called computed, like it exists in Postgres also, right?
We have that feature.
Although here we have
a view as well.
It's a view, just it could be on fly.
Yeah,
it would be good to see byte numbers next to block numbers.
There's also some functions, old ones, not new in this release, but ones for showing bytes, like for making them prettier, right? So if you've got a number in megabytes,
I don't like it.
You don't? Okay.
It's old-fashioned. It doesn't respect gigabytes versus gigabytes. It has issues. Yeah, I don't like
So what
it.
do you do?
I
Do
usually
you show everything in megabytes then, or maybe?
I usually
maybe
write
bytes?
my own for this.
Okay.
If it's it's easy.
Cool. And
Okay.
do you, I know Melanie Plageman. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. As with most Postgres names, I think they were involved, but I'm not sure who else was.
I don't remember as well, but she or they. Sorry about
She.
that.
I think it's she. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I attended the talk she gave at PGCon. It was one of very few talks I attended. It was good. I liked it. About a lot of PGBench, playing with PGBench a lot around how to see how I/O is working. By the way, this view, of course, itself is a big achievement because we always needed something to answer question. How much I/O is related to auto vacuum activities, for example. But I would like to point that, of course, this view shows high-level numbers. It's not actual disk I/O. It's operations with buffer pool. So some of those numbers are purely memory I/O, not disk I/O.
Like
So we still need
system. Yeah.
old tricks to find process IDs of auto vacuums or workers and checking proc process ID I/O numbers are still valid, but it's still very good. You can perform analysis in convenient way. You can understand your I/O, and I/O in database is the most important thing. It's the main source of latency, right? More I/O, more latency.
We've talked about this a lot before.
Buffers.
Episodes, yeah.
Like PGS.io is global, very detailed buffers. Applied
but on
to
system
whole
level
Postgres.
rather than query
Right.
level, right?
Right, but from there you can go to PGS statements and so
Yeah.
on. If you see backends have a lot of I/O writes or reads and so on. So I expect many pie charts and maybe some additional graphs graphs maybe like colorful graphs in monitoring, which will show spikes of, for example, checkpointer or like backends produced writes or reads and so on. It's good. It also has additional things like evictions, like some extra things. Usually, for example, in PGS statements we don't have it. Here we have it. It's great. I mean, it's development of analysis ideas. Right? Yeah. Good.
Nice. So yeah, on that note, these system views are really helpful, and it's great to see new ones being added. Not related to this conversation, but I saw there was one for wait events coming, or at least looks like it's been committed to version 17, which is really cool. But yeah, back to 16. We probably it feels like this is a really good episode on to talk about our favorite features, even if they're small. We'll probably do another one on some of the other larger features. But so on that note,
I can tell you about larger features very short. About larger features, almost nothing.
Well,
the gap between what Postgres delivers every year and what people expect continues to grow. This is my opinion.
There's a bunch of good. I thought there were quite big changes around logical replication.
Unfortunately, DDL is still under development. Logical replication of DDL, but the ability to replicate from standbys, it's long-awaited feature, and also parallel application of long-running transactions. Very, very important feature. I like them a lot. Moreover, I need them a lot. We need them a lot. And we can't wait DDL to happen. It's a very good thing to have. But I'm talking about things like zero downtime things. A lot of them. Yeah. Even alter table zero downtime fashion doesn't exist. But upgrades, people need to stop thinking about upgrades. And things like many things, right? So
let's talk about it another time.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I have a small feature that's like, it's probably just based on the bias of what I tend to come across. But my favorite is also a tiny little one, which is might be even considered a bug that has been fixed, which in version 14, explain verbose, so explain with the parameter verbose, would give you the query identifier, which was added to pgstat statements as well. So this is a really cool feature to uniquely identify a query, a parameterized query. So two queries that are looking for different IDs would still give you the same query identifier.
To join data from various sources, from logs, from pgstat activity,
Yeah.
from pgstat statements, and find examples.
Exactly. And you brought up the important point, logs. There was something that was missing that nobody noticed for a couple of versions, or at least nobody reported, and has been fixed in
Nobody
version 16.
created, maybe.
Pardon me?
The main part is nobody created. Nobody proposed a
Nobody
patch, probably.
proposed or did
or
the work.
proposed it, but it was not perfect in the beginning. This is idea is lives many years, and the need is there many years, right?
Yep. But it wasn't in, if you used auto explain with verbose, so it has like auto explain.log verbose setting, you wouldn't get, even in versions 14 and 15, you wouldn't get the query identifier in the logs, and now as of 16 you will. I think this is obviously tiny, but there are a couple of really cool things about it. One is, I think this empowers monitoring tools, like we were talking about just now, to, if you, for example, even without a monitoring tool, if you are looking at pgstat statements, you find some top queries, maybe by IO, pgstat statements has buffer information in there as well, and you want an example query plan, so you can look into, it. Either an example query plan or even just an example query with example parameters. Auto-explain is now a really good way to get that as of version 16. So you can it's as simple as searching the logs for the same identifier. So that's really cool. Obviously, it makes it easier for tools as well.
Can you remind me, at the same time, now it's possible to explain generic plan. To get, if you don't have examples, at least you can get default plan from the planner, and it was added in Postgres 16, right? Explain generic plan.
Yeah, exactly. Now this.
I don't
nice
like
thing,
it, right?
I
see
mean,
you.
it's not. I can see how it is useful if you
Cannot
using
find
prepared
examples.
statements, or if you need to know about generic plan behavior in general. It's a really cool feature, but I don't see the people I work with don't tend to need it. I suspect it's because I'm not seeing the right use cases.
The right use case, you develop something new feature or completely new product, and you don't have data yet, right? So, but generic plan will be not good in this case, right? Yeah.
I think it's more like if something. I think it's more around prepared. I don't understand it well enough clearly.
Okay.
Because, but I saw people were excited about it, like Lawrence from Cybertech.
Lucas as well.
He might even,
Lucas, APG Analyzed, Lucas Fiddle also discussed it, I remember.
yeah.
They did it at the same time, around like in spring.
Makes sense.
This spring, yeah.
We can link those up for people that are interested in that. But yeah, in the performance work I've been doing and seeing customers doing, I've not seen a case where adding that would have really helped.
It's can be beneficial in automation of analysis when you have a lot of queries to analyze at least somehow, and you need to get at least something and understand, highlight, I don't know, low hanging fruits, like for example sequential scan on large table, and this can be helpful, but it's a rough approach, not fine grained approach.
Well, and you don't know that it will be using it's not real performance data, right? It's the generic plan. Whereas what tends to be most helpful is looking at examples that have actually been slow and looking at performance data there. And that's where I love auto explain. Like it's helpful, not even just so sometimes it's intermittently slow, right? If a query is intermittently slow, it's actually quite difficult to look into. Auto explain helps because it captures the plan when it was slow. So I prefer to look at and I understand the argument is you can't always get the plan for some, like you might have constraints or you might be in an environment where that's not possible.
I'm trying to invent ideas where it can be solved. Another idea is to understand how many tables and indexes can be involved in execution. So how many objects in database we need to lock in shared mode, and there is like some threshold 16. When you reach it, fast path is not possible anymore. And if you have a very frequent query to be executed, for example, many thousands per second, in this case you might have issues with log manager and it hits you and there is no good solution. So I can imagine a generic plan could help understand the number of logs this query needs. And probably this could be like, if we find the second part of information, expectations of QPS for this query, if we understand it's a very frequent query and we see a lot of objects are involved, probably it's time to optimize proactively, not waiting for this log manager wait event popping up in PGSet activity. But it's kind of quite like, I'm not sure I'm talking about something a lot of people understand. We should discuss it another time as well.
And it's not my favorite feature, so
okay. Sounds good. I almost stole agenda here. Let me not to forget to mention very good work which is published with every release every year. It's from I'm going to read Noriyoshi Shinoda, Hewlett Packard Enterprise Japan, with it's big PDF with examples of new features for every release they publish it, and this time is no exclusion. We can see Postgres 16 new features published already. Let's link it as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that. I'd love to see that.
It's usually like beta 1, beta 2 around the time they publish it, and it's great to like it can be used like a reference, like if you're curious about how some feature is working, you have practical example, and it's great.
Yeah, I'll look at that. In fact, you mentioning Japan reminded me of a couple of other things I really liked about this little auto-explain feature, was that it was a cross-continent, cross-company collaboration. So that I know reviewers often have to be, at least it's considered best practice that they're not from the same company as the person proposing the patch. But it's really cool to see people from Japan working with people from Europe, from Amazon, from NTT Data, just lots of different people from different walks of life and different companies collaborating on the same things. Really cool. And the other thing I liked about it was the discussion. I mean, it's probably a reasonable question. People might have wondered when I mentioned that this won't work in versions 14 and 15. Why not backpatch it to 14 and 15? And I think that's a very reasonable question. And I'm not entirely sure it's a good idea not to, but I loved the reason why, which was they didn't want to break any log parsing tools that people have built. So not even anything within Postgres, but very much something that, so part of the ecosystem. Now, I think the most popular one's PG Badger, and I don't think that would break by adding them in. And they might even, if they talk to the maintainers of PG Badger, they might even want this feature backpatched to versions that people are probably more likely to be using in the near term. But as an external tool provider myself, I love that the developers are considering our needs and what might help or hinder us. So really cool to see that conversation, to see the reasons, to see somebody question it, and people answer it.
Good.
Anything else to add from your side?
No, I think I'm already out of quota already, right? We wanted one feature. I discussed. I talked about too many. So.
We'll be back with the Postgres 16 episode, I'm sure.
Okay. Maybe to overview a wider picture, and let's plan to discuss features it doesn't have.
Maybe that, or maybe both. I'd like to discuss like what the important features are. Like this is favorite. Whilst I claim this is my favorite feature, I would never claim this is the one I think is the most important. So apologies in advance to all the great features that didn't get a mention yet.
Well, yeah. There are many things. For example, improvement of performance of copy command, like 3x faster. It's great, and so on. Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
It's like a couple of hundred or something, isn't it? Like it's so many.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Nikolay. Thank you, everybody. Catch you next week.
It's time not to add features, but to remove some. Auto vacuum should be removed. Okay, I'm joking. Thank you, everyone.
It's not April the 1st, Nikolay. Yeah.
Okay.
Careful.
Okay, thank you, everyone, indeed. See you next time.
Take care. Bye.